All right, what's up, everyone? It's Zach, and today I'm here with Taylor August. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk. So, Taylor is a former Division One college athlete at the University of Oregon, where in 2017 she was All Pac-12 honors and now is currently playing volleyball professionally. So, really happy to have you and to talk to you. That's just a little bit about Taylor, but do you mind kind of jumping into your background, who you are a little bit, what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, like you mentioned, I've been an athlete most of my life. So that's kind of been the biggest aspect of my life is really just diving into everything that involves being an athlete. And then I played for 4 years at the University of Oregon, which was an amazing experience for me. And then I've been playing professionally for 3 years now. I played 2 years in Germany and 1 year in Greece, and I just finished up my season in Germany, and I got home about 4 days ago. So yeah, it's been a crazy ride with volleyball, but I really, really love it.
That's so cool. Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like it's something that you've been doing all your life. So it's kind of like
Hmm.
that dream come true moment where you're like, wow, I'm doing this as a career.
Yeah, it's actually funny you mentioned that because I played basketball, soccer, and track actually when I was younger until
Okay.
about high school. And then I started volleyball like my freshman year of high school. So I've been an athlete my whole life, but then I started volleyball kind of late, and my friends convinced me to play. And I remember telling them that I would never play volleyball. I actually told my best friend, I was like, I'll never play volleyball. Like, I don't really think I would like that sport. Somehow she convinced me to play, and it has become my entire life.
Yeah.
But yeah, super, super fun. And I'm so glad that I started it because I really, really enjoyed my other sports. But something about volleyball when I started it just really clicked with me and like my personality and my passion. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey for sure.
That's so cool. And I think it's really cool to hear that it's something that you started. I mean, I guess you could say kind of late, starting in high
Yeah.
school. But the cool thing is, I think that a lot of younger athletes maybe just focus on one sport, from six or seven or whatever onwards. But it's really cool that your background's more of that athlete background where you played so many sports. And I'm sure that's probably helped you
Yeah.
with volleyball too.
Yeah, it definitely has. And that's something that a lot of my coaches have said throughout the years. They are always mention how I kind of started quote unquote late for this sport,
Hmm.
but the fact that I played all these other sports really translated over to volleyball. It made the transition a lot easier because I already had a lot of sports in my background, and then the transition to volleyball was a lot easier because I already knew a lot about kind of the athletic world like that.
Right. Definitely. Now, Taylor, from like I guess like a mindset perspective, I'm
Hmm.
curious, since you did, quote unquote, start late, like especially when you started, going to college at Oregon,
Hmm.
did you ever feel any of that like imposter syndrome of like I don't
Yeah.
belong here, like I'm not as good as these people, or what was that like for you from a mindset perspective?
Yeah. For sure. Like starting late, especially my first year, I was super, super shy.
Mhm.
And my teammates were all really nice, but I remember I didn't even want to like hit the volleyball because I was so afraid to have like any attention on me.
Yeah.
And I tipped. I remember my coaches saying I was like the tip queen when I started volleyball because I was so unsure of myself and not
Yeah.
really like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to make any mistakes. I didn't want to like draw attention to myself by making mistakes. I just wanted to kind of blend in.
Right.
I don't know. So it's really funny thinking back on that now because now I only tip if I absolutely have to because I just like to absolutely crush the ball. So it's just so
Right.
funny to think about. But yeah, and then as I progressed through high school, I definitely got a lot more confident. I had really good coaches that believed in me, and I also started receiving like Division 1 offers my sophomore year after I had been playing for 1 year, and I remember thinking, are these coaches crazy? Like I don't even know what I'm doing. And but it was super nice to know that people saw this potential in me, and I think that really fueled me. And I what just started out as like a fun little hobby and passion turned into this. I had this really intense drive for what I was doing. And then I committed to Oregon, and I remember when I got to Oregon, it was kind of like that all over again. I was kind of nervous, and I had so many amazing athletes and facilities and coaches and staff around me, which was amazing. But I was just
Mhm.
kind of taken aback at first. But I quickly warmed to it because of my drive and passion. Like I mentioned, it just really fit well with me. And I just really put myself into it every day, like working hard. So I was definitely a little bit nervous and, not quite sure of myself because I knew I hadn't been playing as long as everyone around me, but I had such a good support system, and I quickly grew into the role that I had there.
I love hearing that, and, I think that, something that I've talked about with other people on this podcast is just the idea of everyone starts at 0 or chapter 1 or however you
Mhm.
wanna look at it. So even, someone like yourself who is playing at the highest level of a sport right now, like, you started, at the beginning
Yeah,
and you
for
like you
sure.
said, just looking back, like, going from the tip queen to
Yeah.
to now like, "Oh my gosh, I only do that if I absolutely have to." It's
Yeah.
just cool to see that progress and that journey and just, like, to
Yeah.
anyone listening, just it goes to show, like, you all have to start somewhere and you're probably gonna be unsure of yourself and you're gonna make mistakes, but if you
Yeah,
put in that work
absolutely.
and have that support, I think you can achieve whatever you set your mind to.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Definitely. So, with playing volleyball, you're the trajectory that you've been on, you're playing at a high level in high school and then you go to college and now you're playing professionally.
Mhm.
At each step along the way, was it a big transition for you or was it kind of like,
Mhm.
I've kind of plateaued out at this level, time to go to the next?
Yeah, so it definitely was a step. Every time I, made that jump, it was a step.
Mhm.
I think from high school to college was a bigger step than from college to professional in different ways, actually. Because high school to college I was fortunate enough to stay kind of close to home, but still play at a really, really high level. So I was about an hour and a half from my hometown. So it was like just far enough away to where I felt like, the college experience, but also close enough to home
Mhm.
that I felt comfortable and my parents could come to every home game and that type of thing. So it was a jump in terms of like the level of play and just how often you have to really like be involved in your sport, like more so than in high school because it's every day. You're constantly going to practice, to weights, you're watching film, and everything is just more involved. It really consumes your life. And obviously, you're also a student. So
Yeah,
you just become a lot more busy and you really have to be focused on, everything that you're doing.
right.
And then I get through college, which was an absolutely amazing oh my gosh, sorry.
It's okay.
An absolutely amazing experience. And then when I was finishing college, I wasn't even sure that playing professionally was an option. Um, I mean, I knew a little bit about it, but not a lot. And it was actually interesting because when I was getting ready to graduate or going out of my senior year, I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And then it had always been in the back of my mind that playing professionally was an option, but never something that I had absolutely set my mind on. And I knew that I would have to go overseas because all of the professional options are overseas, except actually now they are starting a US league for volleyball, which professional volleyball, which is absolutely amazing. But at the time, it was all overseas. So I was super nervous about that jump to living in Europe, and um, it just was really intimidating to me. But I knew
Yeah.
that volleyball was like my ultimate passion, and all I wanted to do was play volleyball. I remember talking to my parents, and I was like, I don't want to get a normal job. Like, I don't want to stop playing volleyball after college and, just go to work. I really wanted to keep playing. So, then I got in contact with an agent and started looking into playing overseas. And then my first year was in Germany. And yeah, it was a big step, more so just mentally, like being completely isolated from everyone and everything And I mean, volleyball was always fun for me. I really liked my teammates and everything like that was good. It was just the mental aspect of living overseas, being alone 8 months out of the year, and it was crazy. It was really, really tough, I'm not going to
Yeah.
lie. I almost quit after my first year just because it was so hard for me mentally, but I also prove to myself how strong I am, not only physically with everything that, you put your body through, but mentally it was kind of the craziest thing I'd ever experienced. And yeah, and then after that year, it took a lot of thinking, but I decided to keep going. And now I have, yeah, been playing for 3 years. So it's definitely a big jump, but kind of just in different ways from each step.
That makes sense. And, just the whole idea of playing professionally internationally and, having to make that huge jump and, for you to go over to Europe. I mean, what, you're 22 probably?
I'm actually
Or,
24 now. Yeah.
like when you first graduated
Oh, yeah.
from
Yeah. Yeah.
Oregon.
I was, yeah, 22.
Yeah. So like at 22, like having to go across, you know, the world
Yeah.
to a brand new place and be on your own and like yeah you kind of had that experience in college when you're independent and stuff but in a whole different country with like different language and
Yeah.
different way of life. I
Exactly.
can't imagine, but I think that's awesome. And I think it definitely is like a testament to your mental strength and just your strength and spirit as a person that you were able to persevere and push through and continue following what you love to do.
Yeah, for sure. The the language thing that you mentioned is
Yeah,
actually a huge part too, because every time I come home from being overseas, I like forget what it's like to just eavesdrop on conversations. Like
yeah.
I've been home and it's just like everyone around me, I know everything they're saying. Like fortunately enough, when I'm overseas, like everyone that I'm in contact with, like on my team, they usually always speak English. But when I'm out and about, if there's people around me, I just don't usually have any idea what's going on. I learned a lot of German, so I understand a lot more than I did, say, 3 years ago.
Right.
But coming home is always so crazy every year because I just find myself like drawn to like every conversation around me because it's so like crazy that I can just understand everyone around me.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that's funny, and I mean, I can't even imagine just, like, when like you said, when you first went over to Germany,
Hmm.
like, not knowing pretty much anything, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, like, I can't really understand people," like you said,
Yeah.
the people you're in contact with were, English speaking, but just, like, to even just, like, go, I don't know, to the store or, like, to go out and not really be able to know what's going on,
Yes.
I'm sure that was kind of weird.
It definitely adds a layer of difficulty to everything you do, like
Yeah.
just going to the grocery store or trying to set up my phone contract or doing
Oh,
anything.
yeah.
There's just an added layer of difficulty for sure.
Definitely. Now, Taylor, I know you mentioned kind of like how that transition overseas really helped you, prove that you're strong mentally as well.
Mhm.
Is there anything specific that like you did or that really helped you kind of stay focused or help with that mindset?
Yeah, there's definitely, like, several things I would say. I had to learn just how to become very okay with being alone,
Hmm.
especially this year during COVID. I spent so much time alone in my apartment because my team actually had to deal with almost 3 quarantines,
Wow.
which involved, like, 2 weeks straight in my apartment, not able to step foot outside of my apartment by myself. I ended up spending Christmas Eve and Christmas alone in my apartment.
Oh,
And just, like, as an example of things that I, like, had to go through, um, and so learning to be, like, okay with being alone was tough, but I had to just find a lot of things that, I could be passionate about that I could do, like, alone, just sitting in my apartment. So I
hmm.
really dove into, like, listening to podcasts, for example, or reading new books, and I wasn't so much of a reader until now. I've been reading a lot lately just because, I mean, there wasn't a lot to do when I was alone in
Right.
my apartment. I actually started painting. I've also always been really, really passionate about music. That's, like, my other biggest passion besides
Yeah.
sports and volleyball. So I usually always buy, a keyboard actually every season that I'm overseas. I need to figure out a better way to do this because I keep, like, spending money on keyboards. But I have bought a keyboard each year, which has been super nice because it's something that I can just, play the piano a little bit, sing a little bit, learn a new song, and something I'm super passionate about and just kinda fills me with happiness when I'm feeling down or sad. So those are just a few like specific things that I've kind of done over the years. And then
Yeah.
also I just am really, really big on staying in close contact with my family, my friends, and my boyfriend. And so FaceTime has been an absolute lifesaver. I think I probably win the award for most hours of FaceTime, especially this year. I It's insane. I'm not sure how my phone hasn't like blown up yet, but I really spend a lot of time on FaceTime just because even when you can't see them, just talking to them and seeing their face on the screen really, really does help. And in past seasons, my family has been able to come visit for a little bit and my friends, and that also helps a lot. But yeah, it's definitely been tough. There's days where I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this anymore. I've been close to quitting. But every time I feel like that, I really like check myself and I'm like, but this isn't you. Like, you don't quit things. You are strong. You can push through this. And then just by doing that every time and getting through it, it just really, yeah, it proves to myself that I can do it. So, I just kind of push through it. And then afterwards, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do this. And then the next time I go through it, I know that I've done it before. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just trust in myself.
That's amazing. And yeah, I mean, you've made it, like you said, 3 seasons professionally, and you've made it to this point in your life. So I know that you'll continue to have the strength to kind of push yourself even on those tough times.
Hmm.
But I love the things that you brought up. I think that you mentioned it yourself, and I know I've experienced it, and I'm pretty sure everyone has of that like
Hmm.
discomfort of being alone. Like being alone's
Yeah.
tough. Like sitting by yourself with your own
Yeah.
thoughts, like that can be tough, especially like in the past year that we've had where
Yeah.
like it's one thing to be alone, but to be able to go out to the store, whatever, maybe interact with people, whatever, but
Mhm.
like kind of the isolation we felt. So, just kind of finding that comfort in yourself and being by yourself, I think is super important. And then, the idea of I love that you're a FaceTime person.
Yeah.
I think that for me, and I just turned 25, so for us growing up, I'm sure maybe like texting was the thing. I know that was like my
Yeah.
big thing. And then as I kind of got older, I was like, honestly, I'd rather just call someone on the phone or FaceTime
Yeah.
them, and just like it's just more personable, and like you
Absolutely.
just have better conversations when it's like in real time and you can actually hear them and see them sometimes. So I definitely love that you're a fan of FaceTime.
Yes. Oh, I 100% am. It's a really a lifesaver for
Yeah.
me.
And hopefully your phone won't be blowing up or anything anytime soon.
Yeah, I really hope it can last.
But also, like, I know that you mentioned that a lot of other interests, hobbies,
Mhm.
passions kind of keep you grounded,
Yeah.
during maybe tougher times or just when you are overseas. And you mentioned music, and I know that like on your socials, you've posted some music and
Yeah.
singing. Um, has that always been something that you've loved, or is that kind of like a newer passion?
Yeah, it's definitely always been something. My mom and dad are both actually pretty musical. My mom has a more kind of classical training with music. She plays the piano and she sings, and her family also is into music. And then my dad is more just like he likes to rock out. He really likes to
Okay.
listen to music. He's always playing the air guitar and he's just super like passionate about that, and he's always coming up and showing me videos from like The Voice or American Idol, and he's like, check
Yeah.
out this girl, she's insane. And like, I don't know, we all just like share a passion for music. um and I think it got a little bit more um like I got more into it as I got older. I remember I did like a couple like recitals and piano recitals with my sister when we were younger, but it was kind of just something that my mom had put us into. But then as I got into college, I think is when I really had like my own space, and like I had a keyboard in my apartment, and I really took the time to kind of like learn songs by myself. It was always just kind of like self-taught or like YouTube tutorials, kind of like
Yeah.
easy stuff like that. And then I just became really passionate about it, and I would film a couple and then I'd be like, okay, maybe I'll just like post these. I was kind of
Yeah.
nervous at first, but then I was like, I mean, I like it and I feel passionate about it and I just want to share it. So I started posting a couple, and people were so nice and like responding to what I posted and telling me how much they loved it and stuff. I think you even commented on
Yeah.
one of my videos a couple years back, which like really, really touched me. Like I obviously still remember that. And those
Yeah.
are the types of things that like make it even more worth it. Like you get nervous to post something, but then you see the response. and it's just really special. So yeah, I've always really enjoyed that and just kind of sharing my passion for that as well.
I love that. And yeah, I mean, it's so cool to see it because I think that we live in a world where it's really easy to kind of be put in a box of like whatever
Mhm.
you do is like who you are. Like Taylor is just a volleyball player. Like that's all that you
Yeah.
are. That's all that you have. So it's always been cool for
Right.
me to like see whether it's like, a video or like in a story you doing something musically. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's really cool. And it's cool to see you doing something else and shows that there's a lot more to you that maybe not everyone gets to see on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
Definitely. Do you have any, I guess, goals or anything with music? Like, do you ever
Mhm.
want to kind of pursue that
Yeah.
maybe a little more seriously?
Yeah, I've definitely thought about it, and there'll be times where I'm just, like, singing in the car or singing
Hmm.
around the house, and, like, whoever I'm around, like my friend or my parents they'll be like, "Taylor, you should probably actually, like, do something with that." And I'd
Yeah.
be like, "No, I'm not that good, like, it's just, like, a little closet hobby, like, it's not serious." But then sometimes I think about it and I'm like, "But wouldn't that be so cool if, like, something more could come of it?" Or even if I could just maybe record, like, a couple songs and just, like, have it for myself, or
Yeah.
so I don't know, anything like that would be really, really cool. I think maybe as I transition out of volleyball, because obviously I can't play volleyball forever, I don't think my
Hmm.
body would be able to stand that, but I think maybe it'll be something that I kinda dive more into. It just definitely is hard when volleyball consumes so much of my
Yeah.
life. It's like it's hard to be able to give so much to something else. So it's always just kind of been like a hobby and a way to like release and just enjoy myself. But I am super passionate about it. So I think that something may come of it in the future. I hope, because I do really enjoy it. But yeah, we'll see.
Okay. So, in what maybe, I don't know, however
Yeah.
long you play volleyball, and
Yeah,
then
true.
afterwards we'll see a touring or something or on a billboard or maybe on The Voice or American
Uh,
Idol. There we go. But
that would be absolutely
um
amazing. Yeah.
I will say, from just what I've heard and what you've posted,
Mhm.
I genuinely do think you have an incredible voice and you're very
Oh,
talented with music. So
well, thank
I'd love to see
you.
you pursue that, whether it is like, you know, going on like a singing show or like
Yeah,
trying to do it
yeah.
yourself, or even just like you said, maybe writing and um,
Yeah.
recording songs just for you or like your family or friends or
Right.
whatever, just to kind of express yourself. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I
Of
appreciate that.
course. Yeah. Have you ever written any music?
I have tried, and then
Okay.
I get done, and I'm like, "Taylor, that's so stupid. Like, that sounds so stupid." And then I'm like, "No, don't be so hard on yourself." But I've definitely tried. I have, like, a
Okay.
few that I actually, like I don't think I've ever completed something, like a full song, a full thought or anything, but, like,
Yeah.
I've written bits and pieces, and some of it I'm like, "Okay, that's kinda legit, like, that sounds good." Um, but yeah, I think it's also something that the more I did it, maybe it would become a little more natural and
Yeah.
like songwriting, for example. But I do really enjoy like writing and things like that. So I definitely dabble with that, but it's in
Okay.
nothing too serious yet.
Gotcha. Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Just I guess a little quick background
Mhm.
about myself. I've always been a writer. I've been writing
Nice.
like throughout my life, and I've written and published a couple books.
Oh, that's
Throughout my time.
amazing.
Thank you. And like I've always liked like poetry and music, and similar
Yeah.
to you, like self-taught YouTube tutorials for like guitar,
Mhm.
ukulele,
Yeah.
very, very, very minimal piano stuff like that. And
Yeah.
like this past year, just kind of having more of that alone time and trying to, fill that kind of silence. I've been diving into music too. So I know the process and I know that we're our own biggest critics and we're like, that's so dumb.
Yeah.
Like no
Yeah,
one wants to hear
absolutely.
that. But, I can tell how much you're passionate about it. So I definitely hope that you're able
Yeah.
to, spend some time with it or even maybe I know during the off season you wanna probably recover and spend time with
Yeah.
friends and family, but, maybe even put some time into music because I think you have a good story and a lot of good
Yeah.
wise words that you could share with the world someday, so hopefully
Oh.
that'll happen.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course. So, other than volleyball and music, is there anything else that's, like, a really, really big passion that you have or things that you enjoy doing?
Yeah. I would say volleyball and music are my biggest
The
ones.
okay.
Um, but I also, like, I really just enjoy, like, talking to people and, like, kinda, like, going I like having deep conversations, to be
Okay.
honest, and sometimes I'm, like, the one who tries to, like, get in too deep, and people are like, "Taylor, let's we're just, like we're just chilling, we're just hanging out."
Yeah.
But I just always like to I don't know, I think a lot about I don't know, just life in general, especially
Yeah.
after, like I think after this year and this experience with COVID, like you said, everyone's had a lot of time alone with their thoughts and really just
Mhm.
self-reflecting and all of these things, and yeah, I've just learned a lot about myself in this past year especially, and I, like, recognize these traits in myself, and I'm, like, happy to be the way that I am, so I've been really
Yeah.
just comfortable with, like, having deep conversations with people and being super open and real and honest, and yeah, I don't know, I like, even conversations like this and just really diving into things with people I just really enjoy, like, my dad has always joked about that I'd be, like, a great therapist or a counselor
Yeah.
just because I just really enjoy talking to people, and he says I'm super, like, unbiased when I have conversations with people and, like, just also being kind of in tune with my emotions and that type of thing, so, yeah, I just enjoy stuff like that, having deep conversations, really.
I love that. I think I'm the same way, and I think, like, just as humans, we wanna be able to connect with people and have those kinda
Mhm.
deep conversations, and I think that that's, when we kind of grow the most as people too,
Yeah,
when we can,
absolutely.
like, be vulnerable, and it can be tough and it can be scary, but having those deep conversations, they definitely are beneficial to have for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. I always feel good after a deep conversation or a good cry.
Yeah.
I'm a crier too, honestly.
Okay.
I really yeah, I just like happy tears, sad tears. I always feel good after I cry. So, yeah.
That's good. I mean, I think it's important to kind of feel the emotions that you're feeling, whether it's like
Yeah.
happiness or sadness. Like, I think especially with this past year and just like maybe more negative emotions like sadness
Yeah.
or whatever, like I feel like it's easy for us to kind of like push it away and just be like, no,
Right.
no, like I'm fine, like it's whatever. But like it's okay to sit and cry in your room and to be
Yeah.
sad, like feel those emotions and those
Oh,
feelings.
I'm a huge advocate for that. I say feel everything, don't ever suppress it. Me and my boyfriend actually talk about this a lot because we're a little bit different in that sense. He's super, super positive, and I'm
Okay.
like, "Don't you ever get sad? Like, it's okay to feel sad."
Yeah.
And yeah, I just like I'm a huge advocate for, feeling what you need to feel, letting it kind of flow through you and do what it needs to do, and then but not hanging on to things for too long, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've become really in tune with my emotions, like I said, and I'm just yeah, everyone needs a good cry every once in a while, or
Yeah.
obviously also to be happy and, enjoy, but it's okay to be down and let yourself feel that so that you can, go through it.
Definitely. And now I know you said, like, you like to have deep conversations and like to talk
Yeah.
about life and everything. So I might be like opening a can of worms here, but for anyone like listening, I guess what would be some life advice that you would have?
Yeah. Yeah, wow, that's a big question. There's a lot of directions you could go with that,
Yeah,
but I think I don't know, I've just learned, especially in the 3 years that I've been playing overseas, that, like, whatever you feel is okay and it's, like, right for you at the time, because I've found myself in the past kinda, like, feeling upset with the fact that I was upset, and I'm like, "Why am I feeling this way?" So it's like on top of being down or upset, I'm, like, mad at myself for being down or upset, and then which adds a layer to everything that's already going on. But I've just kinda learned, like, as I go through everything that kinda like I said, you just need to feel what you need to feel, and it's also, like, okay to reach out to the people around you and be super open and honest with about what you're going through, and yeah, I've really found that, like, the more that I open up about how I'm feeling and express it to those that are close around me, it really, like, takes the weight off. Um, and yeah, I mean, especially just because I feel like I've gone through a lot kind of on the negative side, especially this year with I had a bad injury and
right.
like COVID, and I didn't have the best season that I had hoped to have because of all of those things. And so I've been dealing with a lot more kind of like negatively than positively, but I tried to really turn that into kind of a growth mindset and being grateful for, the trials, because the trials really cause growth. Even though the growth can be painful, it's super necessary. And yeah, it's really just kind of trying to change my mindset and my view on what I go through. So I think I've kind of been able to accept my feelings and then also really change my mindset to view them in a way that is positive for my life rather than being like, oh, I wish this hadn't happened. I wish I
Right.
hadn't rolled my ankle. I wish all these things. Instead, it's like, okay, well, I went through this because it taught me this. So I really try to change it into like a growth mindset type of thing.
I love that you have that mindset. I think it's so important and it's so cool to hear that. And just you mentioned kind of being grateful and having
Mm-hmm.
gratitude and just kind of putting that spin on things like, maybe this thing happened and it wasn't what I wanted or not how I
Yeah.
thought things would go, but like, it's leading me to something greater or there's a purpose
Yeah.
behind it. I think if we can hold on to that and whether you're someone that really values religion and you kind of have like that kind of
Mm-hmm.
look at it, or maybe you're not religious and you just like hold on to the idea that there is like some sort of plan in the universe. I think
Right.
just knowing that things happen for a reason and trusting that things are going to be okay is super important.
Yes, I agree with that. I always tell myself that too. I'm like, everything happens for a reason. Everything's going to work out the way that it's supposed to. And yeah, just really trusting in your process and your path and that you're where you're supposed to be and just not overthinking everything. And I like to really be in control. And sometimes when I feel like I'm not in control, I get really anxious and I get really stressed.
Hmm.
And then I always have to remind myself, okay, you can control what you can control. If there's something out of your control right now and you can't do anything about it, then you need to just let it be. And it's going to work itself out because you're going to drive yourself crazy thinking and worrying about something that you can't actually physically do anything about. So that's something also that I have to work on is just trusting, your process and your path.
Definitely. And yeah, I mean, I think we're all guilty of getting, stressed out or worried about
Yeah,
those things we can't control. But then I feel like when you realize, like, I can control these things, so I'm going to focus on those, but these I
right.
can't control. Once you kind of let that go, I feel like it's just like a liberating feeling, and you're just like, okay, I can breathe. Like, I know that
Yeah.
I can't like force whatever to be the outcome. Like, I just have to let it be and trust that it's going to work out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I know that like you're super busy with volleyball and everything,
Hmm.
but during the season and stuff, or just in your everyday life, is there anything that you do that kind of helps you with any of the things you've talked about or mindset, whether it's like meditation
Hmm.
or journaling, anything like that?
Hmm. Yeah, so I actually do journal. I It's kind of funny. So my best friend had this journal that we actually share since we were about 13, and I'm
Okay.
super super proud that we've actually kept it going because it's really special that we share. I have my own personal journal as well, but this journal that we share is like super super special because we kind of like pass it back and forth. I took it overseas with me one year and it's something where we just, write about our life journey or things that we're going through or even like our favorite songs or our favorite
Yeah.
quotes, and it's just super fun to look back on. We have little pictures taped in there, little like memories and things like that. So that's super like amazing for me to have and to look back on. Sometimes I just sit in my room and I read all of our old entries, and it just kind of gives me perspective on my life. Like when I'm going through something, I just sit and like I read all of my old stuff, and I'm like, well, when I was 13, this is what I thought was the difficult thing. And like,
Right.
or when I was 20, or when I thought like I was going to die when this happened because I was so sad, or I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just nice to have kind of more perspective and like read back through these things and really kind of, you take a step back from what you're going through at the time, and it's just a nice like refresher and kind of gets you out of whatever funk you're in at the time. And then yeah, I also have my own journal that I write in, and sometimes like I mentioned songwriting, I'll write stuff in there that's like kind of songwriting or writing poems, or I'll just write like an entry about what's going on, or before I've also written out kind of like I like this past season, I was in a time where I had all these things that I felt like I was lacking and I really wanted. Like I missed my family and
Mhm.
I felt like I couldn't do this or I couldn't do that. And I had all these wants and I didn't know how to like satisfy what I was missing. So I like wrote down all those things that I was wanting and needing. And then I next to them wrote down like, what can I do in my current situation that will fulfill that even without next thing that I think I want, like what's something I can do that's going to fulfill that? And it actually really, really helped. And I found myself kind of doing the things that I like wrote down for myself in the way that I could in my current situation. And I was like, this is the best I can do. And I'm doing the absolute best I can do. And it was more fulfilling and it actually really, really helped me. So journaling definitely is a big thing for me. And I think it can be super beneficial for everyone, really.
Yeah, definitely, and that's so cool. First, that like you have a journal with your best friends. It's like
Yeah.
you're 13. That's wild, but so cool.
Yeah.
So, I hope that, the two of you continue that on for
I hope
the
so
rest of your
too.
life.
Yeah.
But just yeah, like with journaling, there's so much that you can kind of do with it. You can write about
Mhm.
literally anything going on, and I like the idea that you mentioned of having that perspective of like looking back at a time and saying like, during this time, I thought it was the end of the world when this
Yeah.
happened, and it helps with perspective, or even just like to kind of reminisce and see like, the journey that you've been on. I mean, life's a journey, so just seeing every stop that you made along the way up to this point, I think is really cool, and it definitely helps with the present too, like what you're going on, expressing emotions, feelings, thoughts, and I really, really love what you did with kind of writing down what you felt like you're lacking or that you wanted or missed in your life, and then like
Mhm.
writing down how you could kind of, I guess, like fill that
Yeah.
want or that need with your current situation.
Yeah. For sure.
I definitely think that like if anyone's listening, and needs to kind of or is feeling kind of that way, I think that's a great activity to do, and I feel like that's something that like I want to try out doing now, just like
Yeah.
to kind of think and kind of see that, although these things that I can do now might not be substitutes for, missing family or whatever, there are things that I can do, like maybe FaceTime them
Yeah.
once, a week or whatever, that bring me that happiness and that joy that I need.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
exactly. It's good to find, alternatives because you can't
Mhm.
always be doing exactly what you want to be doing. And if you can identify like that need that's not being met, like for example, like when I was feeling so out of my comfort zone in a new place and I was like, "Oh, I miss that familiarity. Like I just want to drive down to Target or I just want to go to like I don't know, like sometimes I really just felt like really out of my element and I
Yeah,
felt it was really kind of causing me a lot of inner turmoil and I was like, "Okay, so I'm missing that familiarity and that comfortability, but what can I do to kind of fill that?" And I was like, okay, well, what would I normally do if I was at home? And I just kind of started writing things down that I could do there that
yeah.
reminded me of home. And I just did those things instead. And even though it wasn't exactly maybe what I had hoped I could do, it really kind of filled that void. And yeah, it definitely can help. And I think that was super valuable for me to kind of learn for myself.
Definitely, and I'm glad that you're able to kinda go through that process and just kind of learn more about who you are and how you kind of
Yeah.
process the life that you live, and, I think, Taylor, something that's really cool about this conversation is, since college, you were playing high level, sports, and now you're playing
Mhm.
professionally, and so you are a professional athlete, but, you're a human before
Yeah,
that, right?
for
Like
sure. I'm a human. Yeah.
and I think, like, with college athletes, professional athletes, like, as someone from the outside, people might view almost these athletes as, like, robotic, like,
Yeah.
they have to be
Really.
perfect, like, they don't have, any bad moments or anything like that, and I just think about, like, even, players that maybe miss a big shot or,
Yeah.
do something that didn't go exactly how they wanted in the game, getting those, tweets or whatever, or even
Yes.
articles written up about their biggest failures, and it's like, they're human, and they
Yeah.
have feelings, and they're probably beating themselves up more than anyone else could,
Yeah.
so I love just
Absolutely.
being able to have that conversation. I mean, is that something that you've personally kind of experienced?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think it's super great that you mentioned that because especially since it's turned into my job,
Hmm.
um, the like robot thing really resonates with me because sometimes you're expected to be a robot. They don't
Yeah.
expect you to be a human. You have to come to practice. You have to be on every single day in practice and games. And if you're upset, if you're down, like I'd have days where I would be crying during warm-ups, like just in
Mm.
practice, just because it just becomes so much sometimes and it's so heavy that I can't leave it outside of the court anymore. And it can be so hard, but then it's like I feel like I have to push that down and not show it because like this is my job and obviously they know that we're human beings, but we get paid to perform.
Yeah.
So it's just it can be a lot for sure. And um also how you mentioned like, missing a big shot or maybe losing a big game because of a mistake you made at the end of the match. And that's like super relevant for me. And I, especially this year, like I've never really suffered from like performance anxiety. But this year was a little bit different. I'm not sure why. I think it was a combination of a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I found myself getting like more nervous for um, like games or just really feeling the need to perform. And I think it was kind of the environment I was in this year just made me a little more, yeah, just a little more nervous. I found that that wasn't very beneficial for me. So I had to figure out a way. I was like, okay, I am a whole human being outside of this sport because
Yeah.
I kept finding myself like thinking I was only worth something if I did well in my sport because that's all you have when you're overseas playing your sport
Right.
is the game. And my family's not there, my friends aren't there. I can't even go out to dinner, everything's closed. I go to practice, I go to the gym and I go home. And then I go to the gym and I go home. And so I had to keep reminding myself that I have a whole life outside of this sport. And
Yeah.
like, if I miss a serve or if I hit a ball out or if I have a bad game, like, it's okay. I'm going to live. But yeah, it's just kind of, again, like the robot thing you mentioned. You get in this mode as an athlete where you kind of have to really ground yourself in other things because while obviously this is your biggest passion, like the game isn't everything and you have a whole life, you have people that love you and care about you, and it's super important to just keep that balance. Um yeah, and I just found that really lacking this year for a lot of reasons, but yeah, it's always important to remember that and really ground yourself and balance your life and just find ways to kind of remove yourself mentally, like get out of it. Like when you're in, you got to be in the gym, but when you're out, it's kind of like important to breathe and just get out of it because it can become really, really heavy really fast.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you kind of mentioned this past season was a little more difficult, but I'm really
Mm-hmm.
glad to hear that like you have this perspective and that you know like this is what you need to do, like just for
Yeah.
your overall well-being and health, mentally, emotionally, everything, physically. It all comes down to kind of like grounding yourself and having that support system and knowing that like while it's so cool that like you get to live your dream doing what you love, as a career, that you're so much more than
Yeah.
just who you are when you step on a court or who you are when you walk into, a gym. And just to kind of hear that perspective, like just, since you probably started sports in general, I mean, as an athlete, you have that kind of robotic
Yeah.
rhythm of like wake up, go work out, practice,
Right.
game, repeat, repeat for years. So like knowing that you've done that all your life, I think, it's hard sometimes to detach and be like, okay, like I'm more than that. Like
Yeah.
it's okay if I, miss a serve or whatever. Like there's just so much more to who you are, and there's more, like you have so much more value, you know, and
Right.
worth beyond just what you can do on a court or whatever your, career is, even if you're not an athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. And I that kind of also puts me onto the idea of what I'm going to do after volleyball because sometimes
Yeah.
that really really scares me. I think a lot of athletes struggle with this when you come to the end of your career because you really identify with your sport
Hmm.
and the athlete you've become, and it makes you feel like you're something and you're part of something bigger, and then when you it can't last forever. So when you finish, you really, you kind of have to be doing this throughout your whole career already, but really like grounding yourself, like we said, and knowing that you have this whole life outside of it. And while your sport is a huge part of your life, it's not who you are, it's something you do. And that's what I keep
Right.
telling myself, like, volleyball am. And when I say that, it kind of makes me sad because I'm like, but it is like it's my biggest passion. Like I love
Yeah,
volleyball so much, but it's not who I am. Like I am
right.
Taylor, I'm a whole person, and volleyball is what I do and I love it so much, but I'm going to have a whole life after this. And yeah, it's just super important to remember that. And I mean, that can apply to like any facet of your life or
Yeah,
anything you're doing, but yeah, I just really experienced that with athletics and thinking about, having to transition out of that. So yeah.
definitely. And Taylor, what's like the average career length
Yeah.
for volleyball? Is there one?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of different depending on every person. Also, it might be different kind of by position. I know like
Yeah.
if you're a hitter, for example, and your shoulder gives out or you jump so much your knees go bad, like it can kind of depend on the person.
Yeah.
But some I would say maybe average is like late 20s is kind of when
Okay.
most people would stop, 28, maybe 27 to 29. But I also know girls who play to 35 or even 40, but that's a lot more rare. Um, but yeah, I would probably say late 20s is my best guess, but it can range for
Okay.
sure.
So, you know, all things considered, hopefully with health and everything,
Yeah.
you should have. It sounds like you'll have a few more years at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
going forward. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And
Fingers crossed.
yeah, definitely. And I know you kind of briefly mentioned the injury and everything. So right
Yeah.
now it's just kind of recovery and getting ready for the next season.
Yeah. Yeah, I suffered a really bad ankle injury, unfortunately. I
Yeah.
actually like fractured. I have a small fracture in my ankle bone, and then also I ruptured two really large ligaments in my like upper
Oh my
ankle.
gosh.
So the recovery is quite long because of the damage that was done, and I landed on my teammate's foot under the net. Really unfortunate, but it's just, bad luck. So yeah, I had some pretty gruesome bruising and swelling. Like
Yeah.
the anytime I showed someone that picture, they were like, I have never seen anything like that. And of course, me hearing that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it scared me because it's my first like bad injury, and everyone's looking at the picture of my foot and my ankle and telling me it's the worst thing they've ever seen. They're like, that looks like it's out of a horror movie.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just like, okay. And I'm alone in Germany in my apartment when this
Right.
happens. So I'm just, yeah, I was really struggling. That was really just the cherry on top of an already difficult season. But, like I said, the trials really just make you stronger and help you
Yeah.
grow. So yeah, I'm just rehabbing that right now. I'm just starting to walk again. It's been like 3.5 weeks without walking. So that is exciting that I'm finally
Yeah.
starting to walk again. Um, but yeah, that's been also a new kind of journey for me with this injury. But I think it's good
Definitely.
to, go through that and learn about it and stuff.
Definitely. And assuming everything goes well with the recovery and everything,
Yeah.
are you kind of planning on being back at the start of next season or
Yeah, so that's something that I mean every year I it's like a big process for me because I still struggle with the mental aspect of living overseas. Like
Mhm.
ultimately volleyball is my biggest passion, and I would play volleyball forever if I could. Like I genuinely love it that much.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, living overseas is kind of a big struggle for me. And every year I really like weigh it out and I'm like, okay, do I want to do this again for sure? And then if I do, then I start, looking at my options and contracts for next season. But I'm kind of at that stage again now where I just got home and I feel like I was so kind of like struggling and unhappy the majority of the season to the point where I feel like I'm sacrificing a lot of my mental health when I'm doing this. And I mean, obviously, like we talked about, you learn ways to get through it and really
Mhm.
be grateful for the trials and growing through it. But at what point do I say, okay, maybe I don't want to put myself in that position again, even though I know I can handle it and I'm strong enough? Like maybe I,
Yeah.
don't want to sign up for that again. So I kind of, yeah, I'm at a place right now where I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do. I know I want to play volleyball. That's always certain. Like, I love volleyball, but I don't necessarily know if that means a full 8 to 9 month season again overseas, or, like I mentioned, the US has started a
Yeah.
professional league. It's still kind of new and it's a shorter season, but that's something I think is so awesome and I would love to be a part of. So I'm just kind of, relaxing at home and taking time to make decisions and doing what feels right, I guess, and trying to make sure that I just make the best decision for myself and for my mental health, and while still being able to do what I love. So, yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, I think, that's perfect. It's all about balance. And I love,
Mhm.
that you're prioritizing figuring out what's best for you and what's best for your mental health,
Yeah.
as well as kind of career, just doing what seems right and feels right to you. At the end of the day, people, your loved ones can kind of give you some advice or what they
Yeah.
think, but it's so important to do what you feel is best for you at the end of the day. So it's awesome to hear that that's kind of the focus for you moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So just have to know while we're kind of wrapping it up, you mentioned reading a lot
Yeah.
over the past year, and I know you're big into music. Any like book recommendations or music artist recommendations or anything?
Yeah, so actually, the series I was reading this past season is called A Court of Thorns and Roses. My best friend recommended it to me, which is really funny because it's normally not a genre I would go for. It's like kind of fantasy and
Okay.
uh futuristic, but it's I just fell in love with it. Like the first book, it was one of those books where you're reading and you just are going, going, going,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, okay, I have no idea how much time has passed. I just like time warped and I
Yeah.
don't even know like what's real life anymore. But it's so fun when you find a book or a movie
Yeah.
like that that you're so in when you're reading it or watching it, and then when you get out, you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
like I don't even know what just happened. But yeah, I really fell in love with those books and the characters, and the author
Okay.
really sucks you in. But yeah, it's that's what I've been reading. So I
Okay.
thought it was super, super interesting. In terms of music, well, I do have to say I am a big Ariana
I
Grande
was gonna
fan.
say that I seen you post about it.
And I'm not even gonna like hide it. Like I love
Yeah.
her. I love her. She's so cute. She's such a sweet little human, and
Yeah.
her voice is just absolutely amazing. So I think she's actually about to release a new remix with The Weeknd, and I'm so excited because I also really
Okay.
love The Weeknd.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe we can watch out for that. I don't know what it's gonna sound like, but I just saw her post something about it, and I'm really looking forward to that. Whenever she drops music, I'm like, oh, this is gonna save my life right now.
Right.
And then it like kind of gets me through. Like she dropped an album this past, I think it was November, and it
Yeah, I
really
want to say it
helped
was
me.
November. It was so good. It's still so
Yeah,
good.
yeah, and I don't know. I think I also really like her as a person and like her
Yeah.
message. So when she releases music and I listen to it, I just feel really, I don't know, it just brings me a lot of happiness. So yeah, she's kind of my go-to usually.
That's awesome. Yeah, and
Yeah.
see, here's the full circle of the conversation. I'm pretty sure I saw that she's going to be a judge on The Voice.
Yes.
So this
Yes.
is like this is your sign that you need to go try out for The Voice.
That's actually so true. My life would be complete if I went on The Voice and Ariana Grande turned for me. I can't even imagine anything better. I really can't.
I love
That would be
that.
awesome. Yeah.
Now since we're talking Ariana Grande, and I'm a huge fan
Hmm.
too, I have to know
Yeah.
favorite song. Do you have
Oh,
one? I know it's probably killer to
wow.
choose.
I really, oh no, that's so hard for me. Okay. I think Every Time and Good Night and Go from,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
yeah, are two of my favorites. And then from her most recent album, I really like Just Like Magic was like my favorite from
Yeah.
her most recent album. But that's so tough. That's really so tough. Now I'm gonna say that, and after the podcast ends, I'm gonna be like, wait, no, no, it's these two. Like I really could not pick. But yeah.
That's actually really funny because all the songs you mentioned are probably the ones that I would pick if I
Yeah,
had to pick favorites.
nice.
So you definitely
That's
have
sweet.
great music taste. I'm a fan. I'm here for
I
it.
love it. I love it.
Awesome. Well, Taylor, if anything that like we talked about today really resonated with someone, or if anyone listening kind of wants to keep up with the life journey that you're on, whether it's volleyball related, music, anything, is there any like socials that you want to drop?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So My Instagram is just Taylor August, or actually it might be Taylor underscore August. I don't know, but just search
It's
my
okay.
name. Yeah. I have Twitter too. Instagram and Twitter are my biggest
Okay.
handles. I don't really go on Facebook or Snapchat that much, but yeah, Instagram's probably the one that I use the most. And I
Okay.
definitely, now that I'm having some more time at home, I kind of want to just start sharing a little bit more and posting on
Yeah.
stories and stuff and just really connecting with my audience. So yeah, probably find me on Instagram. That'd be sweet.
Awesome. And yeah, after this, like I'll figure out what your handle is and I'll
I'm
put it in
so
the
bad.
description.
The fact that
It's
I don't
okay.
even know my username. What is wrong with me?
It's okay. I mean,
Uh,
it happens. There's so many things we have to remember with like
yeah.
logins and passwords and stuff. I don't blame you,
Yeah,
but
true.
I'll throw that in the description. So anyone
Nice.
listening, if they want to check out Taylor, please definitely go do so. A lot of great content and hopefully more music. So that'll be cool to hear.
Yeah.
But Taylor, is there anything that you want to leave the audience with? Any last message or anything?
Um, wow. I don't know. Just live your authentic life, really. Like, just be yourself. At the end of the day, like, whatever is like calling you and whatever you're passionate about, just be all there and just live authentically and don't regret anything that you feel. And thank you so much for having me on. This was amazing. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, perfect words to end it. And you're so welcome. And thank you so much for being a part of this. It's been so great getting to talk to you. And, I'm wishing you a complete and quick recovery with the ankle.
Yeah,
And,
thank you.
I have no doubt that no matter what you do, whether it's on a court or off a court, you're going to be doing great things for this world and helping so many people and inspiring people and just bringing so much kind of positivity and just optimism to the world. So I'm
Oh,
really
that's so
thankful to have this
nice.
time with you, and I'm excited to see what the future holds, and I'm excited to watch Ariana Grande turn her chair for you.
Oh, I hope so. That would be amazing. Thank you so much. I
Of
really, really
course,
appreciate it.
of course. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.